Morning, everybody. How's the Friday vibe?
Morning, Yaku. Friday vibe is good, man. Friday vibe's good.
I tell you what, this is the day I picked to come to campus. My son's writing an exam, so there was no time for me to get back to my home office. So I'm actually in one of the classrooms, and it's that wonderful spring day we had with. It's winter again. It's cold, and it's going to rain any minute now. How's all the other Capetonians coping? Are you experiencing the same as me? It's not a pleasant morning. It's a cold morning. Everybody good? Sean looks if he's ready to rock for the weekend. It is a Takun. It's ice cold. I tell you what. This morning I realized I'm my age because they say that this is the kind of cold that sits in your bones. I can remember when we were on a rugby tour when I was at school. We played Grey College that one Saturday morning. They are always a very competitive side, obviously, and it was a home game for them. I have never. We lost that day, but it was close. It was like 7-6 or 9-7 or something like that. But I think very much the weather had an impact on that too. But that's where somebody observed to me that the wind that you find out there in Bloem in winter is a lazy wind. It doesn't blow around you; it blows through you. Now I feel like I'm in Bloem this morning, and the wind's blowing through me because it's cold to the bone this morning. But anyway, let's heat it up and get some good conversation going. Thanks, Theresa. Everybody that has joined so far, welcome. I trust that we'll have a valuable session this morning let's kick off, and let me kick off with something of importance. I said today we'll spend some time on of course there's a sun in Gauteng. Let's see if that sun still shines like that after the Currie Cup rugby semi-final this evening. But I'm confident that it will. I'm not.
What time is it?
Oh, shucks. Now you're asking me. It's probably not going to be. Is there still a lockdown? Do we have to be in at a certain time? Usually these kind of things is around 7 o'clock in the evening. Make sure that everybody can get home. And so you can't get to the stadium. Let everybody get home and light the fire and get in front of the telly. I think it's 7, Andre, to be honest. But as I said, there's usually on a Friday evening, there's so many things to keep the whole family satisfied that I sort of watch the highlights tomorrow. But anyway, whatever your plans are for the weekend, everybody, I think that I hope that you do have plans for the weekend and you're not just going to study. And please don't tell me, because I promise you, I'm thick-skinned. I'm not going to feel guilty if you say, I wanted to make plans for the weekend, but now I have to work on this personal selling assignment. You know what? Good for you. I'm not going to, as I said, I'm thick-skinned. I'm not going to cry for you. But if you have to do that, we'll have a session, or we'll have opportunities during the 2 sessions today where we can actually specifically address issues and problems that you have with the assignment. If you do, if you don't, you're not going to waste time on it. It's an opportunity. Having said that, when we spoke yesterday, I indicated to you, and you see it on the screen, and that's why this is not deja vu. It's not Groundhog Day. You're not stuck in the same day that's repeating itself. We started with this yesterday, and I'm starting with it today again because I have updated it slightly. You can see there's a link at the bottom. I have confirmed that Stadio prefers you to use the Brandon Grotesque regular font for your assignments. Now, I know that not everybody has that on their devices, and that's why I've included that link over there. You can download that particular font free, the whole Brandon Grotesque range of fonts you can actually download for free. So use that link, download it on your device, and it makes it easier. I had to do it myself because my laptop was also not, or software was also not providing with that option. Having said that, I'm still not going to penalize you in any manner if you use the Arial font. But please get used to it. If you don't do it now, you will have to do it maybe for a different module or in future. It's going to be a requirement, but at the moment it's strongly recommended, and therefore I've included that link. That's the reason why we've got that up on the screen. Everybody okay with that? Right. Let's just see. Before we advance to the or continue with chapter 9. Chapter 6. Let's just get it straight. What I said yesterday. Make prospecting in this whole chapter and all the content of the chapter to make sense to it, of it. Let's make sure that we clearly differentiate between what a lead and a prospect is. Anybody? What's the difference between a lead and a prospect?
So I would say, Andre, prospect is something is a client that's fresh, that doesn't know that you're coming, and a lead would be an opportunity that's a possible opportunity already.
Right. Okay. Other contributions?
Maybe there's a better description.
Tarquin, yes, leads are unqualified. You're right, and I think that word that Tarquin has used is the operative word and the important word. A lead is anybody out there who has the potential to buy your product, but they become prospects if you qualify them, because the whole world is a potential prospect. But because your business is located in a certain area, it might not be accessible to them. So immediately they are disqualified based on their geographical location or your geographical location. They might not be able to afford it. They might want it, but they can't afford it. Those are qualifying criteria. So a lead is basically anybody that doesn't know that your product is available, but has the potential to buy your product. Where a prospect is somebody that has the potential and the means and the need to actually buy your product. Okay, so that's where we.
In terms of that,
it's qualified lead.
You're saying that a prospect is basically someone who they still don't know you're coming.
Sure.
But you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, you've marked the clients that are potential clients that have the money, that have the means to be able to buy the product. It doesn't mean you've spoken to them already.
No, you haven't. As a matter of fact, you haven't spoken to them.
You haven't. Yeah.
The whole process of prospecting is to collect as many people as widely as possible, not qualify them, but to firstly gather them. Right? You want to get as many customers as potential prospects or potential leads as possible. They are still leads. They could be anybody. It could be the janitor. It could be the guy begging on the street corner. It could be anybody. It could be a doctor. It could be a lawyer. It could be a colleague at work. Anybody are potential leads or are leads. They become, once you qualify them, and the main criteria is, do they have a need for the product that you are selling? And B, can they afford that? Do they have the means to afford it? Then we qualify them. In other words, a prospect, if you want to use the minimal amount of words to describe what a prospect is a prospect basically is a qualified lead.
Yeah, okay.
But you have not contacted them yet, because that's the next step. Remember, we are busy with the steps in the selling cycle. The first step is the prospecting step. We are gathering information, we are qualifying our leads so they can become prospects, and those prospects are the one that we're going to start phoning when we do chapter 7. Those are the ones that we are going to follow up. It's a process. It's a sifting process. It's like a filter to end up with the prospects that's more than likely going to use your product, and it's not going to waste your time. And there's at least some common ground when you do pick up the phone and phone them, because and the reason for that is obviously is not to waste time and not to incur unnecessary expenses, but also we know that one of the challenges for salespeople are that they are we fear rejection. We don't often we have that reluctance to phone a prospect because, gee, maybe he says no. Well, if he says no, he says no. Then move on to the next one. If you, however, have effectively qualified your leads, that you reduce the chance of that prospect when you do contact them eventually, that they are going to be excited and interested and might even buy.
Cool.
Right. Many methods of prospecting exist. It's almost unlimited. There's no opportunity, there's no activity that's not an opportunity for you to prospect. But let's clarify them first, because whatever method we use, you know what, let's look at and for those who are obviously who are into sport. If you let's take the series that we just played, the rugby series that the Springboks just played against the Lions. We have become used to a pattern of the scrum half or the fly half kicking a high ball, chasing it, maybe retrieving it. That's the first intention. If not, then putting pressure on the opposition so they kick it out and you actually have an attacking line out. That's a specific tactic that has been used and a method that's used, and it was effective in one instance and it maybe not in another. Similarly, in the game of football, if you've got your fast players out on the right, don't play on the left all the time. From a opponent's point of view, obviously they will try and force you to play on the right hand side, on the left hand side, if your speedsters are on the left hand side. So those are on the right hand side, and those are all different methods that's used and different tactics and methods that's used in certain situations. And similarly in business and similarly in sales, when you're prospecting, you're going to stick to the methods. Remember that image that we saw yesterday, the 70-20-10 rule? You're going to stick to that 70% that works. You're going to stick with a method that does work, and repeat that and get good at it, get excellent at it. So to be able to do that, and from all the variety of methods that's available to us to prospect, it becomes more efficient, the whole process, if you can determine certain characteristics of the potential prospect. In other words, what industry are you are selling? What's the size of your business? What's the product that you are selling? What are your competitors offering? Types of customers, and then obviously the characteristics of the salesperson. All of those elements that I've just mentioned and that you see on the screen are elements that impact on which method of prospecting you choose. Okay, it's very important that you choose the correct method, and sometimes we can be very effective in a particular method, but it's not efficient in the business because that method doesn't work. For the example I've used, if Faf kicks the ball up in the air 10 times and 9 out of 10 times the Lions catch it and kick it out in our half of the field, then maybe we need to use a different method. Maybe then, and that's what we're saying here. You can actually perfect the method, but the method is not the perfect method for the type of customer that you are, or the type of prospect that you're trying to find. Right, now look at ways in which we can prospect. Where do we find? Start with the customers that you have first. They're satisfied. If they're satisfied, pick up the phone, ask them for some referrals. We know that if they are satisfied, satisfied to the point of almost becoming a loyal supporter of your product and brand, they will do, my apologies, they will do a lot of word of mouth advertising on your behalf. So why not start with people that you know, and people that you know are supporting you because they are already buying your products? What better way to start with to find out from them if they don't have any contacts and people that they are prepared to share with you, and that will be interested similar to them in the products that they are using and that you are selling. So it's a very good starting point, because already that prospect has been qualified, because they are referred to you. So that you don't have to do the qualification of that prospect. It's been done by your satisfied customer. To maximize usage of satisfied customers, make sure that you have an updated list of the potential references that they've provided you with. It's not just John, please, you've been a loyal customer for us for many years. Do you know, maybe, can you provide me with 5 or 6 names of people that might be interested, that you would be happy to refer to us? It doesn't stop there. You need to ask additional questions to find out what those people are doing. Okay, you know what your customer is doing. Are they in the same? Are they in the same industry? Maybe if it's a teacher, that's a very satisfied customer. It would be fellow colleagues in teaching in that school, for instance, other teachers. Find out from your from the satisfied customer what that referral, what that person that they are, prospect that they are referring to you, what they are doing. In other words, make sure that you have the similar information that you initially collected from that satisfied customer before they became a customer, when they were still a prospect. Very similar to the satisfied customer method is what we call the endless chain technique. This is basically, and how it's different from a referral from a satisfied customer, as these the endless chain technique also includes referrals from people who are not customers with you. You maybe call 10 people, 5 of them actually were interested, 4 of them bought from you. That one person who didn't buy from you, you can still get leads from that person. You can still get leads from the other 5 who weren't interested. It might not just be for them, but they might know people who are interested. So make sure that you treat that opportunity also. Don't just leave with a prospect that has not shown interest and has not committed himself to a presentation to potentially buy your product. Don't just, okay, no, I'm not interested. Okay, right, so I'm very sorry to hear that. Do you know maybe a few people that might be interested? It might be because you don't know. You don't have the crystal ball. You don't know, because you haven't asked all the questions yet, why that customer is unsatisfied. If your customer, if you ask the correct questions, and we'll deal with that in more detail when it comes to the handling objections, because remember, we're still busy with prospecting here. You're just trying to determine if the customer has the potential to buy your product. You haven't even sold the appointment yet. Okay, we are still in the prospecting phase. But later on, when we deal with objections, it will be clear that you can add a few more questions, even to these people who say they are not interested. Don't take them off your prospect list. The timing might be wrong. The person might have a need for this product, but financially they're not in a position now to do it. I've been supporting the National Sea Rescue Institute for many, many, many years. It's something that I value. I've never been in a situation where I needed their services, thankfully. I'm maybe too scared of the sea, so I don't go beyond the first break. But way back, just after I finished school, I think we were on our matric jaw after the exams. I got caught in a current in Nature's Valley, just outside of Plettenberg Bay, and the currents were quite strong there, and that was a real horrible experience to me. Fortunately, one of our friends was a provincial and a national swimmer, so he kept us calm to basically just ride it out. But I've been supporting this the NSRI for many years, not as a result of that particular incident, but because I believe in supporting good causes, and to me that is a good cause, because you never know when you're going to need them. When I went through a bad patch a couple of years ago and lost my job and we're in transition, obviously they kept on phoning, but I couldn't contribute anymore because all of a sudden my financial situation didn't allow it. I'm still in support of them, and they still keep on phoning me, and I still keep on telling them, you know what, the situation is not improved to such an extent where I can sacrifice that contribution. But keep me on your database, please. I won't put the phone down in your ear when you phone me in a year's time, for instance. So it's important that you realize that even those customers who say no might be a source of a reference of a prospect that might be interested. Because we know not everybody's going to say yes, not everybody's going to be interested. Okay, but don't miss that opportunity to get additional leads from such a person or such a prospect. Right. These techniques that we have so far, identified, definitely have some advantages. We've addressed some of the advantages already. If you get your references from satisfied customers, it's usually a good reference, because a satisfied customer is not going to give you the name of a prospect that they don't feel will potentially like them become a customer and not just remain a prospect. As we've already identified, they're already pre-qualified by the person who's referring them. And also it saves you time, because you're not going to end up phoning somebody that's not interested. And obviously with saving in time, it also means that you're saving cost. And because you're acting on a referral from a satisfied customer, you can already put the new prospect that you have not met and never spoken to before. You can actually, as an icebreaker, say, "Morning, sir. How are you doing? The reason for my call is Andre from the Stadio marketing management group actually phoned or referred me to say you might be interested in the products that we offer. He's a very satisfied customer of us for a number of years now." So it's sort of an icebreaker. It's not that it's a total new cold call. You don't know that prospect at all, but it helps to put their mind at ease, because it's not like that they are familiar with the people that have referred them, and that makes it easier for you. So those are the biggest advantages. It makes that call that a lot of salespeople dread, makes that call slightly easier to deal with. Center of influence. We all know that influencers nowadays play a very important role in how customers make decisions. So influencer usually are people with a specific credible status in a community. I'm not sure if anybody or everybody on that list that I have used as an example at the bottom are necessarily always credible and respected influencers. But very often celebrities and especially sports people, sports celebrities are used as influencers. It's not something you're not paying that person to supply you with a list of contacts. It's somebody that basically endorses a particular product or a specific product, and based on that, and we know the power of that. How many consumers are aware of a product, not necessarily have yet buying that product, but are aware of a particular product based on a specific high-profile individual or well-known personality using and endorsing that particular product. It's used very effectively, and we know that using these type of people as a in your name dropping when you contact a prospect helps a great deal. And obviously, the activities of these individuals in their practices, like a doctor or an attorney, in their circle, in the circles that they move. They obviously, if they endorse a specific product, they will get unlimited opportunities on sharing that information with somebody. It's like being sponsored by a particular sports individual, displaying or being required to wear certain garments and caps and t-shirts and jackets that their sponsors expect them to wear in exchange for the sponsorship, obviously. And that's free advertising. That stimulates a potential prospect's interest in that product, and it definitely helps if you phone a total unknown individual because you're representing a brand that has been endorsed by such an influencer, that the prospect would be more than likely interested, because we know the power of those individuals that they have on consumer decisions. It's almost as if they, if those individuals use the product, it must be a good product. It depends, however, on the contrary, it could also have a negative impact, because if that celebrity is not is a controversial individual, it can actually have an adverse effect as well, but not necessarily on your sales efforts, but more specifically on the brand itself, which obviously indirectly impacts on your sales efforts. So influencers, also a good source. Networking, of course, networking is a brilliant source. Networking is also not offering something to an individual in return for prospects. It's just basically establishing a network of people that you can rely on, and that you have the confidence based on that relationship that you've built to contact when you do need leads, for instance. I can remember when I was at my previous college, I've shared this with you before, part of my weekly activities was what I called my market day. My market day, I called it the market day, but actually my market day was basically my networking day. It means going out to the market, so to speak, and staying in touch with what's happening on the ground. And that resulted in me visiting certain Virgin Active clubs regularly. So I built a very nice relationship with the managers. They were all part of my network. And the network works both ways. The network, for instance, what was I selling? I wasn't selling. I wasn't selling a product. I was just selling to them, and why I have included them in my network was because as a college who offered training courses for people in the health and fitness industry, it helps me to find people who are in that industry, maybe staff at those facilities who needed upskilling, and therefore we could actually engage them in or interest them in doing one of our shorter courses or online courses, but also it helped them because they were. Remember, if you're part of a network, the relationship works both ways. It helped them also to contact me and say, listen, I've got a vacancy. Have you got any students who are qualifying themselves in the near future? Okay, that's part of the network. And I know that a lot of tertiary institutions, including Stadio, with your exponential learning and your workplace learning that happens in second and third year on most courses, is an opportunity to help the students get a soft landing in the industry by doing that prospecting of potential employees on their behalf. So we draft, and those colleges and institutions draft a list of a network of businesses who might be interested in your students as to shadow, to job shadow, maybe for part-time employment and even for full-time employment once they qualified. So networking is an extremely effective way in which you can source prospects, especially, and this is where relationship management comes in. If part of your networking responsibilities is to ensure that you build a very strong relationship with that individual. I made sure also that, especially in the rural areas, I'm talking about areas that's 300 kilometers, further than 300 kilometers away from Cape Town. People that can't just get in the car and drive to you, or for me get in the car and drive to them to service that customer. They can pick up the phone. Principals in schools, for instance, if you have a good relationship with them, I also always made sure that I have a good relationship with them, because when I visit that particular area, it's a question of just popping in, having a cup of tea, catching up on what's happening, how they're doing with the inter-schools. I mean, what's good, what's bad in their school, what's troubling them. That's part of the networking. And then later on, what happens, it happened frequently with me, is that principal will phone me and say, Mr. van Rensburg, yes, remember, I'm so. Yeah, of course, because they're part of my network. So also you become very familiar with them, and you actually, they become friends. I've got one or two kids here who's matriculating at the end of the year. They're interested in this area of study. Can you send me some information? Now, that's 2 or 3 leads that I didn't have, that I just got because of my network. Very helpful, but again, it's something that's not going to, it's something that you have to work on continuously. It's not something that's just going to fall into your lap. This takes at least 3 years to establish effectively if you want to generate prospects from your network. It's going to take you the best part of 3 years to establish a solid network. The internet, of course, we know nowadays. I mean, that's probably one of the first places that people, that salespeople look. They go onto sites. They, as suggested, Adelaide Compass is one of those. It's a trade directory that gives you a list of businesses by location and by industry. And you can get all the information on that site about size of the business, how many people work there, what type of business they're in. It's important. It gives you valuable information. Just doing normal web searches. Sending you to the websites of different businesses, usually offering you the opportunity to put your name and contact details down, and if you want more information, and they send it to you. It's part of the prospecting process to use the internet effectively. Any of this sounds strange to you? Any of this that comes to you as a, oh, geez, I didn't know that. No, is that how that works? Everybody good at this stage? You all fine? Because we're almost done with the first session of the morning. Believe it or not, you've actually stayed hopefully awake. The fact that I'm getting raised thumbs means that some of you are still awake. Maybe it's just early morning coffee just kicking in at the moment, which is also good. Let's look at a few more prospecting methods. On the page there, it's not. It's just interesting to read through what they have provided you, some guidelines that they provided you to make sure that your internet searches is done efficiently, and what you can do to ensure that you are part of that you are visible on those platforms. Writing blogs, very interesting. People react to that a great deal. Write articles, publish articles. All these are different methods that you can use the internet for, to ensure that you get your name out there, and basically in the process, prospects are, and we'll see that it sort of ties in with telemarketing as well. If you leave this information out there, it's like breadcrumbs, and then later on, eventually, when the time is right for a particular prospect, then they pick up the phone and they do that call to the 0860 number. But we'll deal with telemarketing later on as one of which is another obviously effective method to prospect. Right. Advertising, direct mail, catalogs, publicity. I think it's self-explanatory. Make sure that you remain visible. Very often, advertisements and these catalogs that fill up half your newspaper, they are all methods to remind customers of potential products, or remind customers of products and specials, and it's a source that I know, for instance, a lot of people say, yeah, you know what, I heard it on the news last night. I actually saw it on social media at lunchtime, and then I saw it on the news, on television that evening, and tomorrow morning you read it in the newspaper. It's fine. I completely understand that, and people think that the print media will eventually completely disappear. To the contrary, I think it has a lot of potential still left. I know, for instance, that you read things in you save it somewhere in your memory. If it's not immediately apparent as something that you need at this moment, and it happened to me this week, and I said to my son, he was asking about something that I had to buy for him, and then I saw there was a special on somewhere on this particular item. It's not something that we use on a regular basis, and that's why it actually it drew my attention, and I quickly went through the newspaper of 2-3 days back. I usually keep my newspapers for a week, and then I end up in the braai on the weekend anyway. So yes, the news do eventually become old, but I use that particular old newspaper to go back and find and collect that information. So it's again, people, it's almost self-explanatory how ads, commercials, direct mail, and catalogs And we're not just talking about the print media here, because this is done also on all your electronic platforms as well. Those catalogs about what that you find in your newspaper or that they put in your mailbox, you'll find exactly the same copy of that on the website, electronic brochure on the website of that same company. So just more and more ways to ensure that you source new prospects. And often these mediums generate prospects for you because they stimulate ideas. And you think, oh my word, yeah, that gives me an idea. Maybe I can try and do that. Articles that you read in the newspaper, celebrities, those people are getting married, or those people are this, or this new business is opening, and this new mall is going to be built just around the corner. It's all people. It's just collecting information, and then obviously that's where the creativity of the salesperson comes in. What do you do with that information? But these are usually sources, especially as there's articles in newspapers and magazines on developments that's happening in your immediate area that can impact on your potential customers, or help you grow your potential customers. People, I think it's the end of the first session for this morning. You've been fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then if there's anybody that has any questions